Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at energy fuels. It is time for another update, and today we discuss this structure that has managed to form an extension once again, but may actually now be facing a larger correction that would be yet to come. Now, before we get there, before we get into those details, I would like to go quickly through the larger time frame for any of you who might be new. And here on this chart we are in an overall basically all-time downtrend where we have this possible initial wave A to the downside that could still form extensions. We would then be able to consider a wave B that could form a top within this area, and then a wave C to complete a larger correction into even new lows. Now, is this likely? Is this my preferred interpretation? Honestly, it is possible, but I wouldn't consider it necessarily too likely. And no, it's not my preferred interpretation. I actually would expect a larger uptrend to form, but that is not based on evidence. It's just purely my expectations, because we have not yet completed this structure. We have not yet gotten into the follow-up area of support and extended higher. We didn't break it either. We don't have structure suggesting to us which pattern will end up unfolding. Now, within this pattern, within this structure from the all-time low, however, we have been tracking this idea of a 1-2 setup where ideally we would like to see a third wave unfold to the upside. For this to be a reliable wave 3, however, we would have certain expectations it would need to fulfill. So firstly, it would need to be an impulse, and it would need to get to the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That is around the $130 level. And if you've been watching this channel, you would know that this does actually imply some issues, because within this push to the upside, we have already built the likely structure, the likely part of this uptrend, and we have also built what is commonly the strongest part of it. We already have the wave 3 in place. Normally, the wave 3 is the strongest part of the rally, and we already have the wave 1, 2, and 3 in place, and all that is left to continue in this uptrend that is really needed to have a full count is a fifth wave. So it's not that it cannot get there, because sure, the fifth wave could get to those levels, especially if it forms an extension similar with what we have seen internally in this wave 3 to the upside, but it's not going to be the highest probability interpretation. It's not going to have the highest likelihood of actually working out, and I wouldn't want you to be unprepared to have a more significant top in place. Now, there's even another interpretation that could allow this to be instead a double 1-2-1-2 setup, and the third wave could form, but there's no evidence suggesting this would be a high probability scenario either. So I would like you to be prepared for a more significant top within this fifth wave to form once we build here our 5-wave move to the upside we have been tracking in this area. That could very easily take us to something like the 100% extension of the initial wave to the upside, which could actually reinforce this being an ABC pattern instead, and we could expect a quite substantial correction afterwards, possibly even in a larger uptrend below the beginning of this entire move to the upside. So even if we are to form a larger leading diagonal, let's say, we could fall below the beginning of this uptrend, which was at around the $3 level, before continuing to higher prices. We would expect possibly such a substantial correction. It doesn't need to be this large, but it's just an idea of what is possible. And what else could it form? Well, something more bullish potentially, because this could also work out as an initial 5-wave move to the upside as a wave 1 of a larger wave 3. In such a case, long term, the expectations would be even more bullish, but even this scenario would expect a more substantial correction to occur within this area. We would expect the levels of support for a wave 2 to be reached. Now, with that said, we can actually move on into the smaller time frame. I believe I provided you all the details that are important and relevant for the larger structure. And within it, within this smaller time frame, within this structure specifically, we have been tracking this idea of an impulse where we would have a 1, 2, 3, 4th, and a 5th. It's working out very, very nicely, I have to say, and this has been regarded as a high probability trade setup. This has been regarded as an area for accumulation, which we have been tracking ever since we topped within this wave 3. We were calling for potential complete structures ever since we got to around the $16 level. That was our first point where we were looking for a potential reversal. We had a small one within that area, but ultimately, yeah, sure, we extended a bit lower, but we had still this core area of support for accumulation for this high probability structure, for this high probability trade setup for continuation within a fifth wave. And now we have bottomed within this wave 4 and we have extended quite high already within this fifth wave. Now, in this structure, we aren't really tracking a bearish interpretation anymore. We are looking for an impulse that is still expected to form within this area. And it's not must. I could see this unfold as an ending diagonal that is still applicable and possible for us on this chart. But for now, the structure is still holding strong within this interpretation of an impulse, where right now we would expect to be within a wave 3. And this initial wave 1 to the upside certainly has its issues being tracked as an initial 5 wave move to the upside, but it is also very much possible. And yeah, we can actually track here something like 1, 2, 3, 4th and the 5th, and now we would have here a wave 2 correction and then a 5 wave move to the upside that is expected to form within the wave 3. Now, within this wave 3, we have had our high probability trade setup for this internal 1-2 structure. Yeah, we had a 1-2 trade setup in this area that was also very highly regarded and very much deep within the area of support from the larger time frame perspective. We were looking for a third wave to unfold and extend at least to the $18 level. Look what it has done. We have gotten to the nearly $28 level instead. We have had quite a nice extension within this wave 3, where it seems we might have actually come to form a more significant top. So in the previous video, we already were considering a possible top to be in place. That has been in play, that has been a possibility from a couple of videos ago actually, but we were also tracking extensions within this structure. We were also looking for this structure to have the possibility to push to even higher prices. Now, I was mentioning that if we were to extend directly higher after a tiny correction such as this, I would still be considering it would be part of the orange interpretation, part of the extension. Now, sure, we did push a bit higher before starting our wave 4, but nonetheless, we did push into the 50% retracement for the orange scenario, and we extended within another high in this area. Now, have we topped within this structure? Not necessarily, so I could still see this fifth wave form yet another high, and depending on how even that unfolds, we could track possibly even further continuation higher, but it is already in quite a fragile spot. So I wouldn't consider this to be part of the wave 3 still. I would definitely be tracking this as the fifth wave, so we don't really need this area of support anymore. And for continuation within this wave 5, I would be tracking an internal ABC pattern within this structure. Because remember, within this orange interpretation, within this fifth wave in blue, we have been tracking the idea of an ending diagonal. For this interpretation, we must absolutely hold the $23.5 level. We have already gotten a wick below it, and as long as that level holds, yeah, as long as we don't form another low within this area, I'm looking still for continuation higher. It is going to be quite an early signal that this larger structure has started its wave 4 correction, for which we would have an updated area of support now at the levels between the $23.7 all the way down to the $19.8 level. And for the larger time frame, as long as we hold the $19.8 level, I'm still looking for this structure to manage to build an impulse within this area. But remember, I was mentioning that this structure does also work out within an ending diagonal, and honestly, I cannot be looking for a wider failure as long as we hold the 61.8% retracement, which goes all the way down to the $17.7 level. Below that level, sure, we would be looking for something more bearish to be going on, but right now, I won't even keep this on the chart. It's just for a quick highlight that we cannot look for a failure within this structure as long as we hold this last level of support at the 61.8% retracement, for the assumption a larger wave 3 would already be in place in this idea of an ABC pattern, which I honestly don't believe is the most likely interpretation. But nonetheless, remember, within this small time frame, we are still able to extend higher within this fifth wave. I will even add a small count within this area, in fact, but I wouldn't hold my breath for this to work out. And as you notice, within these last couple of drops, we have had quite sharp corrections, even within this one, if you want to consider it. It is quite a sharp, quite a strong correction. those are actually typical within diagonal structures, and they do actually signal that we are coming closer and closer towards the end of this uptrend. It was a nice ride, but all good things must come to an end, and we should be prepared for a break below the last swing low we currently have as the wave B bottom to signal the larger correction to have started. And in terms of what I could expect of this wave 4, well, probably something similar as we had within the wave 2 in terms of proportions, but I wouldn't be surprised to form a sharper correction in the case of this structure. Now, we can have a tiny area of resistance to track, especially since within this structure we are even able to track a potential impulse forming within this push to the downside, and in this case I would be considering that we have just bottomed within the wave 3, and I would be looking for continuation lower, let's say within the white scenario, as long as we hold below the $25.3 level for a fifth wave to possibly form within this area. Now, if we build this entire pattern, we have already gotten to the first level of resistance, by the way, and we got rejected just now. But if we build this pattern, we would have an initial wave A to the downside that would be highly suggestive to us that we should expect something like a 3-wave correction within a wave B, and then at the very least another 5-wave move to the downside to complete this zigzag correction within this larger wave 4. Now, of course, at the same time, a break above the 50% retracement would be a decent signal that the structure will not manage to actually form an impulse within this area, although no guarantees, yeah. It is possible in certain cases, but we wouldn't necessarily have the high probability for another low, although if we are to base our expectations on the proportions, yeah, I would see this wave 4 forming a larger pattern at the very least. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.